This is the Good Neighbor Podcast, the place where local businesses and neighbors come together. Here's your host, Regina League.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the Good Neighbor Podcast. My name is Regina League, and I'm the owner of South Charlotte Media Group. And one of my favorite things to do is to connect with business owners that are local, hear their story, and learn more about their business. So today I'm super excited to speak with Laura Garland, and she is the owner of A Spirited Ceremony. Welcome, Laura.
Oh, thank you for having me, Regina. I'm thrilled to be here.
Well, I had to obviously go to your website because I was like, what is A Spirited Ceremony? And you have such a unique business. So tell us a little bit about yourself and how and why you do what you do.
Oh, thank you so much. I am having the best time with A Spirited Ceremony. It is a modern approach to milestones, really, and mostly weddings. I'm a wedding officiant and a writer, but I'm telling stories and I'm helping people tell their own stories in the most important moments of their lives. And so I do that in a lot of different ways. Mostly wedding based. I'm doing some speech writing. I'm supporting first-time officiants by coaching them. I actually wrote an ebook called Writing a Spirited Ceremony, and I poured in my process for kind of ceremony creation into that. And I'm just having the best time telling love stories. I love love. I love creating spaces where love is at the center and it brings people together to connect and be in community and celebrate a couple or celebrate a family. So that's what I've been doing.
How did you get into this?
Great question.
Well, why? I mean, there's a lot of questions.
Right. I'm an educator. I have a master's in early childhood. I have a background in public relations before I was a teacher. And so I have some professional media training. And so that kind of is where my public speaking part comes in. I've always been a reader and a writer, especially creative writing. And my friends and family know that. Kind of the best, greatest honor and most serendipitous moment that happened was two of my best friends in 2017 asked me to do their wedding. And I was like, wow, what an honor. Whoa, like this is incredible. And so I performed that wedding and it was so thrilling. And so I really was humbled to do it, but I also felt that spark. And after, someone I didn't know asked me for my card. They thought that I was a professional wedding officiant, but I had performed the wedding for friends. And then it almost struck me. I was like, oh, this is a possibility, right? So I held on to that little spark. And then that was not the first friend who asked, or the last friend that asked. It was the first, not the last. So I did 4 more for friends and family. And then the dream of doing this as a business really came into shape. And my aim was to provide the same level of love and care to these couples that I'd given to my friends and family. And I wanted people to walk away from ceremonies that I had performed thinking, oh, she's known this couple forever. And that has been really the feedback that I've gotten from doing, 36 weddings over the last 3 years or 2 years. And it's been a real honor. I love what I do.
So you're not a wedding planner.
I can help support planning some.
Okay.
That's not my ministry, I should say. Really, it's the creation of ceremonies, and I've helped couples plan elopements. But the catering and all of the flowers and photography, that's best suited to someone where that's their expertise. Although I'm happy to support couples in doing that. Really, the joy and passion that I have is in the ceremony.
The ceremony itself. Mm-hmm. So do any ceremonies just jump out of memory that you can share with us? Because I bet you've got some good stories.
Yes. In my ceremony writing, I like to sit down with the couples. Sometimes it's here in my home. Sometimes it's out at a coffee shop. I have to get face-to-face and be in person with them. And this couple they're my neighbors. They found me through our neighborhood residents private Facebook group, and they invited me to their home, and I sat at their kitchen table. And this is a couple who had a lifelong relationship. They'd been friends their grandparents played pinochle together, and their
Oh my
parents were
gosh.
friends, and they were neighbors. They grew up together in New York. They had separate marriages. They'd been friends, and had thought of having some sort of romantic relationship, but went their separate ways through their 20s and 30s and 40s, and found each other again. And writing that love story, their hearts were completely open to share the ups and downs and the story from beginning to end. And I felt so honored, so humbled, and such a responsibility to their story that their ceremony will probably always be one of my favorites. Their family, all generations, their grandchildren, their children, their parents, their friends and family, all being gathered together, knowing every step of the way that they had known each other and that they found each other, and they get to spend the rest of their lives together. It was the best.
Well, I bet you can tell by the reaction of the attendees, how this all resonates. And I'm sure it's so emotional when you share those kind of deep stories.
Yes, it's emotional for me too. I love love stories, and I love love. And I really grow to love these couples. I really focus on quality and not quantity. And so I take on between like 13 and 15 weddings a year. There's only so many weekends, right? And I want to give them my full attention. And I put a lot of love and time into spending time with them and preparing their ceremony and being present with them on their wedding weekend. And so I really love all my couples by the end.
So I noticed you helped them write their vows, and I'm just curious because I was just at a wedding a few weekends ago, and it was a couple of, I'm guessing around 50, obviously married before their adult children are there. And they use someone like you. I'm more used to going to church weddings and things where it's got the religious undertones, but this was so special because there was a journey, a story that was captured. Do you get with the couples separately to write the vows so it's a bit of a surprise?
I do.
Yeah.
I love reading vows and supporting couples and telling stories. And I typically I will have an intro meeting with couples together. And then that's kind of where we decide if we're a fit. And so I'm getting to know them a little bit there. And then we have a ceremony planning meeting. And then I do a vow planning meeting with them separately. And so I'll have them pour out some of their ideas. I'll give them sentence prompts to really pull some stories out in some detail. The good juicy bits of vows are when we really share something that's more specific, but can be universal to the whole group to really like get into your feels, something that we know is really true. And so I really try to help couples find those true things that are going to be pull at the heartstrings a little bit, but really capture their feelings and their commitment to their partner.
Yeah, because it's so hard and you're so vulnerable at that point. So other than weddings, I notice you do celebration of life as well.
Yes.
Talk to us a bit about that.
Yeah, that actually comes from a place of a previous experience. I planned my father's celebration of life in 2021, around this time actually, in 2021, and I realized that there was kind of a space outside of a traditional right away funeral home celebration of life that could be more personal, just like how we've taken a more modern spiritual approach to weddings, and they can be anywhere. Celebrations of life can be anywhere too. They can be in someone's home. They could be on a college campus where they loved to be, and that was a special place for them. And my support for celebration of life since then, I've helped several families with obituaries, planning their celebrations of life in like as a planner perspective, and then also writing and like placing those obituaries and then helping with eulogy writing as well. Everyone wants to capture their loved one exactly how they are. And it can be really difficult in a time of grief and loss to properly honor them. And I love being able to come alongside a family and support them through that time.
That's amazing because, I can't imagine the pressure. of having to do that. And it's wonderful that you can balance both the happy and the sad, but make it the celebration of life like it should be. So you mentioned that you can coach people to do what you do. I'm curious, how does that work?
There are so many opportunities in businesses when you're open-minded and you are willing to stretch and be flexible in what you're providing. You can really find a niche that you didn't realize was there. I had friends and friends of friends who knew that I had been officiating weddings and that I was doing this for work, and were like, "Hey, can you help me? Someone asked me to do their wedding, and I have no idea where to start." And so after 3 or 4 different individuals had reached out and asked, "Hey, I'll pay you," I was like, "Well, I'll come up with a service that really supports other individuals who are first-time officiants." So I started doing that, and I do that a lot, actually, which is really fun. I meet with them. I provide as I mentioned, my ebook, which is kind of my start to finish, how I create ceremonies, what questions to ask couples, how to write a speech. All of those things are kind of my own approach to it. I provide that, and I sit down and I go through editing rounds and help them with their ceremony scripts, and we'll even run through it, and I'll give them some public speaking tips as well.
So what qualifications or certification do you need in order to make the wedding legal?
Oh, great question. So in almost every other state, you can do an online certification and you're good to go. And there's no real registration. In some states there are, they will have you register with the health department. For example, in Hawaii, I performed a wedding there and I had to register there. Here in North Carolina, it's a little bit trickier. We can't just have any family or friend do an online certification and be a member of a church elsewhere. You have to really make the commitment to be an actual wedding officiant to perform them. I've gone through ordination, and I'm a minister of marriage here in North Carolina. So it can be a little bit tricky. So it depends on your state. So check if you're interested in being a first-time wedding officiant. I would check out what your certification is before you perform one. And you can always have a family member or friend perform your ceremony at your wedding and then go to the courthouse to make it legal too.
Gotcha. Okay, good to know. Is there anything you would love our listeners to know about what you do and yourself that we haven't already talked about?
Absolutely. I would love to take on some vow renewals in 2025. I have weddings already booked for 25, but vow renewals, as I mentioned before, the powerful stories that come from a long history and couples who've already been married and are looking to renew their vows from years ago. I just feel like that would be such a privilege, and that's a new area I would like to venture into. I'm very open to supporting anyone across the country, but especially here in Charlotte. I love my neighbors. So if you are interested in doing a vow renewal, I would love to help you out.
I love that idea. Love, love, love that idea. So when you're not doing this, what do you do for fun?
Well, I love to take my daughters to our public library. That's one of our favorite things to do. I have a 6-year-old and a 3-year-old. And so I'm very busy running after them at the park and doing fun activities with them. But I also love the Charlotte food scene. My husband and I love visiting local restaurants, especially here in South Charlotte, Waxhaw. And I also love doing the neighborhood walking trails and meeting up with friends. I love to bake. And lately we've been going to the movies a lot, which is really fun.
Isn't it fun that we can go back and do that again? What are some of your favorite restaurants here in South Charlotte?
Oh, Custom Shop is uptown, but I love that one.
Okay.
We really love going to Emmett's in Waxhaw.
Yes.
And we love all the Foxcroft wine spots too. We love
that. Is great.
Yeah.
That is great. So as we wrap up, tell our listeners how they can find you.
Oh, you can find me on Instagram at A Spirited Ceremony and on my website of the same name, aspiritedceremony.com.
Well, it has been such a pleasure. I wish our listeners could see the joy in your face. I can tell you love what you do. And just such a neat thing that you've created, taken a passion and made a business out of it.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, Regina. It was a pleasure.
Absolutely. I look forward to seeing you in the community.
You too.
Thank you for listening to the Good Neighbor Podcast. To nominate your favorite local businesses to be featured on the show, go to gnpsouthcharlotte.com. That's gnpsouthcharlotte.com or call 980-351-5719.